There are two primary types of prototyping that designers use. One is prototypes to communicate. The other is prototyping to validate. They have different goals. When it comes to prototyping to communicate, this is a moment of exploration. We haven't figured out exactly what we're going to create, whether it's a product or a service or a business model. We're still exploring our options, and so we use prototypes to help us better understand the world around us and to figure out where we want to deploy our resources. Prototyping to validate is about resolution. It's about taking a handful of ideas and narrowing them down to just one or two, and then investing our resources in iterating on those couple of ideas as we converge onto our final solution. But either way, whether it's prototyping to communicate or prototyping to validate, the most important part is understanding what questions your prototype is asking. And that means we need to start the prototyping process by identifying our biggest assumptions about what we're creating, picking the most critical of them, and testing them. And not just testing them, but testing them quickly, which is where we derive the term rapid prototyping. It's making something just good enough to answer the question. As you'll recall from our earlier example in the introduction session, Jack Dorsey's first ever prototype of Twitter was pretty crude, and there wasn't a lot about it that looks similar to the Twitter today. However, it was good enough to communicate what he was trying to do with enough fidelity that it gave him confidence to move on to the next step, and that might have been to actually code up a mock website or to put together screen grabs or wireframes, but his first version was good enough to answer that first set of questions and test that first assumption, which is, will people find this valuable? And the same principle applies to Airbnb. These sketches were all that was needed for Joe Gebbia and Brian Chesky to have confidence that the general direction of Airbnb was right, and later they could invest in figuring out all of the features and benefits and nuances of the offer when it was commercialized. But remember, at the beginning, just enough fidelity and investment to answer the question.